to answer the question posed in the title, yes, Campaign 4, Episode 2 definitely holds up. If anything, I found the second episode to be more enjoyable than the first. Now that we've got the setting established, now that we know the characters and their dynamics, now it's much easier for me to follow the story and what is going on. Beyond that, I think it's great how the characters are definitely starting to fit into their niches. You can see that Liam and Abria's characters, they are definitely fitting into a parent role. There's also Tayor, Travis Willingham's character. He's like a stoic protector of good, but he's also very clever and a little bit conniving at the same time. Mr. Wick, Sam Riegel's character, is the naive good boy who doesn't understand the corruption of his family. I could go on and on and on, but we're definitely seeing these characters developing, and I love that. Critical Role has always done character right, and this campaign, I'm seeing that once again. So yeah, I enjoyed this episode, but I do have some of my own little criticisms, and I do have plenty of lessons that we can learn from Campaign 4, Episode 2. So without further ado, we're going to start with a little bit of a recap of generally what's going on, then I'm going to do a little review of the episode, and then finally we're going to end off with all the lessons learned. Without further ado, guys, let's get started. Okay, so just generally speaking, what's going on in this episode, we are definitely establishing stakes here. First episode, we had the execution of Thiazi Fang as our inciting incident. His funeral and the aftermath of his death is what brings all of our heroes together. Episode 1 established who our characters are, what the setting is, and what the vibes of this campaign are going to be. Very dramatic, to say the least. Episode 2 builds on that by establishing the stakes and the antagonist. Now we as the audience and the players are getting into what they're going to be facing in this campaign. You've got the Sundered Houses, who are taking a lot of power throughout the government and throughout the city just in general. They're taking control of law enforcement, they're taking control of education, they're privatizing that, and that's definitely something that's very scary and the part you're going to have to deal with, probably on the schemer end. There's also the Condescent Creed, who are definitely coming into their role as an antagonist. This is the faction of Regal and Moore's characters, and they are definitely the bad guys. They have a chained up angel in their basement who is apparently Sam Riegel's grandfather, which, hey, that basically confirms this guy is secretly a sorcerer, which means my prediction was correct. Woo, yeah, let's go. I mean, I still had to give out like 6 t-shirts, but still, I got one right. Beyond that, we have a secondary antagonist in the form of Matt Mercer's character, and we're starting to get some of his tragic story in the form of classic daddy issues. And finally, we have the creeping threat of the demons, who are apparently scheming against the Condescent Creed of their own accord. This is all really cool stuff. It's clear that we're building towards the party break, each following their own plot and pursuing their own bad guys. I'm not 100% sure what those plot lines are gonna be yet. I mean, some of them are pretty clear. The schemers, for example, they're definitely going to be fighting the Sundered Houses and staying in Dolmakiar. That's their whole thing. And since we're establishing the political takeover of the Sundered Houses, it would be weird if that wasn't relevant to the schemer party. The Seekers, I think they're also pretty obvious. Ashley Johnson's character has a missing magic rock that she needs to find. And who better to look for this magical artifact than a group of people who are invested in the world and the lore? The Seeker Party, unraveling the mysteries left behind in the wake of Thiazi Fang's death. Finally, you have the Soldiers. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know what's going on with the Soldier Party. Hell, I don't even know who's in each of these parties. But a big threat rising in the wastes beyond Dolmakiar will allow the soldiers to explore the world as well. I can't imagine they're going to be staying in the city. Though what threat they're going to be facing, I don't know. I don't think it would be the demons or the Condescent Creed. But depending on what the demons do in the next few episodes, maybe they become the big threat the soldiers will need to face. In any case, all of this is very, very exciting. In terms of my thoughts on the episode, let's get to the review part. I did really enjoy this episode, like I said before, but I do think there are going to be some things that I'm going to need to get used to in terms of this new Critical Role format. First and foremost, there are definitely plot lines I'm more interested in than others. This has always been something with Critical Role. Obviously, the show has always had a habit of focusing on certain plot lines first. And this was a huge problem in Campaign 3 because they were definitely dead set on a single plotline. The God plot with Ruidus and Predathos the God Eater, which, as I have well established, I personally did not care about. So I definitely fell out of Critical Role because of that. This also happened during Campaign 2. Even though that show had plenty of different focuses and plenty of different mini side quests, there were definitely times where I skipped over a couple episodes just because what they were doing at the time didn't interest me. Here, we have that problem on more of a micro level because you're switching in the cast in and out, and there are definitely times where I'm like, let's get back to the thing that Sam Riegel and Whitney Moore are doing because I was way more interested in that. And I have a feeling that when we have this party break, there might be episodes I skip because there's definitely plot lines I'm more interested in than others. The other big thing I've noticed with this campaign is, this is something that I predicted, to be quite frank, but Brennan Lee Mulligan is not as strong of a voice actor as Matt Mercer. Obviously, Brennan is a very talented actor, and this is not like a knock against him because, to be quite frank, most people in the world, most people in the showbiz industry are not as good at voice acting as Matt Mercer. He is very, very, very talented. There's a reason why he's in everything. He's incredibly good at his job. Now, generally speaking, this wouldn't be a problem for most Dungeon Masters, but I have noticed that Campaign 4 is very crowded, especially the funeral. The scenes at the funeral have a lot of NPCs, a lot of funeral goers, and I tended to get them mixed up. I don't even think it's a ton of NPCs. I think there's a max of 3 to 5 people there, but I always in my head got mixed up on who the party are talking to. Now, to be fair, I am neurodivergent, so this could be a skill issue on my part, just not being able to follow Brennan's plotline as I get distracted by playing Minecraft or something. However, I did think it was worth pointing out because this has never happened to me during the run of Critical Role's other shows with Matt as the DM. I do think, like I said with the previous points, this will become less of a problem once we split the parties. I can't imagine Brennan's going to be juggling as many NPCs in future scenes, so yeah, I'm not too worried about this in the long run. The big thing, though, I do want to point out, and this is something I really hope Critical Role improves on, genuinely, this is a serious criticism. I'm not too worried about the other ones, but I'm worried about this one. The loss of Flando is kind of a big deal. If you don't know, Flando is the guy who did the timestamps for all of Critical Role Campaign 2, most of Campaign 1. I think they did Campaign 3 as well, but I'm gonna be frank, I wasn't watching Campaign 3 on YouTube, so I didn't notice. The point is, Flando's not doing that for Campaign 4, and I do think something happened during Campaign 3 that caused him to stop, YouTube started blocking their comments or something. I don't really know the details. The point is, Critical Role no longer has detailed timestamps for their 4-hour episodes, and I think they should get on that. They have a guy who writes down all the subtitles for Critical Role, which is amazing. They manually transcribe subtitles. That's a really great practice. I just don't see why they don't have that same guy mark events in the episode. I do understand that it could be spoilery, Flando always said at the top of their post, there may be spoilers under this thing. The point is, spoilers or not, I don't know why Critical Role doesn't do this, because I get lost in episodes. I want to go back, I want to rewatch something, and even on their paid service Beacon, which is what I'm currently watching Critical Role on, their timestamps are really sparse. It's every 20 to 30 minutes. Flando's were really, really detailed, marking stuff every 2, 5, 10 minutes, and I thought that was way, way more helpful. I don't know. It might be just personal preference. Some people might prefer to have the more sparser timestamps. Personally, I want something more detailed, especially as a content creator who has to go back and take notes based on these episodes. Flando, I miss you, buddy. But anyway, that's my recap, that's my review. I still really, really love this show, obviously, and there are plenty of positive lessons to learn for your TTRPG game, so let's get started on that. before we get into the lesson properly, in case you haven't noticed, these are all positive lessons. All the stuff that you shouldn't take into your home game, I've already covered in the first episode of this little mini-series linked up in the cards. You know, stuff like be timely with your players, don't make them wait hours to play the game. I feel like that stuff is kind of obvious, and it's okay in Critical Role because this is a show. These people are being paid to be here. It's not a big deal if they have to wait a while for their part, right? But at your home game, no one's being paid. In fact, in many games, people are paying you, the Dungeon Master, so you should definitely make it worth their time. With that being said, in the future of the series, we're probably going to be covering mostly positive stuff because, you know, all the things that I could have said about don't take this in your game, I've already said. Anyway, the point is that the first big positive lesson: let people play through their backstories. The opening of this episode is a flashback to the Falconer's Rebellion, where we have a number of characters fighting alongside Thiazi Fang while he still lived. This opening was a little jarring because I was very confused on what was going on at first, especially because there was no recap, but still, I thought it was really, really effective in getting us invested in these characters further and establishing why people cared about Thiazi. I mean, the guy is a straight up main character in this moment. I mean, we're not exactly getting that energy when he's a corpse. So having this allowed us to really understand why these people are so emotional about this guy, why he's such a big deal. It works so much better than Brennan just like exposition dumping about how great Thiazi Fang was. It also allows the players to directly participate in the events. When you're playing or running a game of tabletop, you always want to encourage player participation. There are obviously going to be times where you as a DM are yapping. Whether you're monologuing or talking between two NPCs, that's gonna happen inevitably, but you should try to minimize it as much as is reasonable. Like, if you can bring in a player to collaborate with you on this story, you should. They're the main characters, they're playing this game. And allowing them to play through a flashback, I think, is a really fun way to encourage them to get invested in their backstories and to give you cool material to work with. The backstory is no longer just some ephemeral thing that exists in the background of the campaign, it's something that they actually get to play through for a little bit. Now, of course, there are some warning signs here. Like, for example, that thing I mentioned earlier, that you need to be timely with your players and not make them wait forever. If you're covering one person's backstory, and you let them play through that backstory, you might be making the other people wait. But frankly, there are easy ways to deal with that. Like, first and foremost, keeping it short, keeping it sweet, you know, keeping track of time and making sure it doesn't exceed like 3 to 5 minutes, I think is very reasonable to give one player a little bit of spotlight before going back to the rest of the players. You could also have one-on-one sessions. Duet games are a great way to explore someone's background, and frankly, duet games are a really great way to practice your DMing without needing to deal with scheduling crap because it's just you and one other person. Look, as a DM, I've always crutched on dream sequences as ways for me to convey backstory because frankly, I'm a more lazy DM than Brennan Lee Mulligan, and so dreams are a very easy way for me just to get the exposition out there and get it on the table. However, now that I've watched Armand, I might just do this cold open thing. Try it out myself. Let a player play through just a little bit of their backstory in front of the rest of the party, just like 3 to 5 minutes, and allow players to get some cool main character moments for themselves just for a little bit. Obviously, like I said before, there are warning signs with this lesson, but I think it could be really cool if done right. But you know what's just as good as Critical Role's new episode? Today's sponsor! This video is sponsored by Wild Magic Reimagined, a versatile and dynamic system for adding more unexpected magic effects to your 5th edition games. Look, Wild Magic is fun as is, but the devs behind this project want to make it even better. Now, there are 700 Wild Magic effects that can be added to a variety of stuff in the game, not just the Sorcerer subclass. With these Wild Magic cards, you as a GM have a powerful tool for bringing the unexpected to your game. Maybe a Yeti will appear right next to your players, or you'll get a neat little mailbox with a cute little item inside. Best of all, this game is made with multiple editions in mind. D&D 5th edition, D&D 2024, Tales of the Valiant, and Level Up Advanced 5th edition. edition. The devs have made the supplement so that as many people can enjoy it as possible. If you guys are interested, you can head down into the description down below where you can pick up Wild Magic Reimagined from Kickstarter. Thank you so much to these incredible writers for sponsoring today's episode. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. And without further ado, back to class. Okay, next up. This is another thing to encourage player participation. Let players world build with you. I've seen this advice plenty. Ginny D gives it all the time, and I think it's great advice. The DM has a lot on their plate, and obviously world building is a huge reason why some people DM. We want to have all of that sweet, sweet world building to ourselves. But keep in mind, your players are not drones. They might want to world build as well, and take that burden off your shoulders. Working with your players on your world building is genuinely a ton of fun. It's directly encouraged in the Daggerheart DM sections. And I know that there's a lot of people who push back on that, like, if I let my players do the world building, I'm gonna have a forest named Penis. And yeah, I know some people are like that, but I don't know, dude. I'm playing with a bunch of, like, biker dudes and nerdy film girls, and I've never had that problem. Like, my friends are not, like, ultra role players. They don't even do character voices. Most of our characters are just, like, us, but orc. You know? Like, we're not really into the whole RP part of this game, but still, like, when we want to sit down and do some world building, like, they understand that I take this world seriously and I care about it, and they respect that. Not to say I don't like any, like, bits into this campaign. I mean, my players canonize Bob Dylan and Dino Chicken Nuggets, but, you know, when I want them to take stuff seriously, they genuinely do. And I think you should at least just try to world build with your party and see what happens. You might be pleasantly surprised. Like, yeah, a lot of people make dick jokes. That's not their whole personality most of the time. Many of your players would be happy to have a serious world building session with you. But you notice in Ahriman Campaign 4, the players aren't having their own world-building sessions before the game. I mean, they probably did. Like, I can't imagine those board meetings were for anything else. But during the session, Brandon lets players do, like, little mini flavors of world-building. The example that pops up in my head immediately is Bolair. Bolair, Taliesin Jaffe's character, works in this big museum, and he's a big deal at this museum. He's arranging the exhibits. So, naturally, Brennan lets Taliesin be the one to describe what those exhibits are. This makes perfect sense. Matt did this with Liam in Campaign 2 as well, allowing Liam to describe his tower, his magnificent mansion to the rest of the party. I mean, Liam was practically the dungeon master for that segment, and I love that. I love that. It doesn't just need to be the big world building stuff. Like, I've done that with players. Sat down with players and let them world build with me. In my world, a faction called the Blade Sisterhood exists just because of fall cosplay. However, those little pieces of world building in the moment, just while you're playing the game, it allows the players to feel like they are part of this world, like they matter here too. Now, I will say, keep in mind that you do need to trust your players on this. It's unfortunate, but during games, I have had players directly contradict my world building, make stuff up for themselves, and it sucks because I do care about my world, and if I have someone directly contradict me minutes after I establish some information, it is frustrating, and that might happen accidentally. It's not necessarily a problem player doing it. You're role-playing in the moment. People are making stuff up. They're remembering information poorly. It happens. Just make sure that in session 0 you establish that you have veto power and the power to clarify information when it comes to player and DM collaborative world building. As long as you got that, I think you're gonna be totally fine. This is a great practice for an RP heavy group. Okay, final piece of advice, and this was already something in episode 1, but it's definitely expanded on here in episode 2. But the characters have, like, normal, average lives. Like, Bolair and Murray have jobs at a museum. Liam and Abria's characters, they're married and have kids and stuff. They have normal, average, everyday lives. I love this. This is actually a piece of advice that's directly incorporated into the system of Draw Steal. If you're unaware, in Draw Steal, your character has some kind of job before they become an adventurer, and part of your background is choosing what that job is. You also pick your inciting incident that caused you to abandon that job for adventuring. Now, notice that our party have not quite abandoned their normal lives yet. At least most of them haven't. However, I'm sure that as this little prelude continues, we will see the inciting incidents that cause people like Bolaire and Murray to get out there and draw steal. Get out there and start dungeoning and dragoning. It doesn't really work in D&D, I'm sorry. Look, the point is that, yeah, having characters with normal lives is great. It doesn't even need to be at the beginning of the campaign. It could be before the game. Because of the way Draw Steal does backgrounds, my players all wrote about their normal lives from before they became adventurers, and I found those sections to be really interesting, especially how it informed the ways they roleplay during the campaign. Like, for example, our Null, an undead noble, he is definitely a schemer. He's trying to pit factions against each other all the time because he grew up in a cutthroat noble family long before he was an adventurer. Establishing those kind of origins is really important. We always think of our characters as just like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. Like Aragorn appears in the tavern as a straight, cold badass. But Aragorn had a life before that, and establishing your character's life before you became this epic adventurer, that could be really helpful. Also, in Ahriman, playing your character as just a normal person with a normal family, that might work as well. I mean, it could also work after becoming an adventurer. Look at Jaheira in Baldur's Gate 3. She is a long-time adventuring grandma, and she has a full family. It works really well in the story of that game, and I think it could work well for your character as well. If you want to play out having a family during your adventures, that is a really great source of drama for your campaign. In Ahriman, like I said before, these characters also obviously haven't had their inciting incident yet. That might work for your game as well, though you do want to communicate with the DM on that before the campaign starts. If you're starting the game as just a normal Joe, you need to establish the DM is going to give you something that drives you towards adventure. But yeah, as long as you keep all that in mind, being just a regular Joe at some point during your story, it can add a lot to your roleplay. But in any case, that's all of the advice that I have for Critical Role Campaign 4 Episode 2. I don't think this is going to be a weekly series, especially since I don't think this campaign is a weekly series. They take a week off at the end of the month anyway. I think in the future, this is going to be a bi-weekly thing. If this next episode is successful, we'll have to see what happens. We will be going back to Draw Steal tutorials next week if you guys are interested in that. But in any case, if you guys enjoy and want to see more of our content, check out the first episode of this little mini-series. We covered good and bad lessons to learn from Critical Role Campaign 4, linked up in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Academy so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to support us directly, then head over to our Patreon or buy our merch. You can get an exclusive Discord server as well as exclusive D&D and Draw Steal content. In essence, like, comment, subscribe, support. I will see you all next time. Farewell. This is the faction of Sam Riegel, and this is the faction of Wick. Why is this so hard?